Well, we got a lot of fast moving and breaking news. I want to come back to the United States and talk a little bit about the regulatory landscape under the next Trump administration. We learned today that Paul Atkins, a veteran financial regulator, a fixture in Washington's conservative financial circles, is President-elect Donald Trump's choice to lead and possibly overhaul the SEC. We got with us Nathan Dean, senior policy analyst over at Bloomberg Intelligence. The name had floated in recent days, Nathan, so not too much of a surprise here, but what would you say is the top focus of Paul Atkins if he is indeed confirmed by the Senate?
Yeah, so former Commissioner Paul Atkins, he was a commissioner in the early 2000s, I think really has three things that he's going to be focusing on if he's confirmed, with the idea that deregulation is his mantra. This is what he lives and breathes. First is crypto. Obviously, he brings a pro-cryptocurrency view to an SEC that's taken a very much a different confrontational view. So it loosens up enforcement risk for companies like Coinbase that are currently engaged with the SEC on enforcement actions. Second is capital formation. This is something we saw during Trump 1.0. I think there's going to be a return to that. Maybe changes to the accredited investor definition, allowing private individuals to invest more in private markets. And then the third one is this idea of the U.S. equity market structure. For those of you that are in exchanges or dark pools and so forth like that, back in 2005, there was this rule called Reg NMS that really dictated how the U.S. equity market structure is today. He was a heavy dissent to that. And so it wouldn't be surprising that if 2027, he looks back at Reg NMS and says, maybe we should make some changes here.
Okay, I want to start with crypto because that's what you led with, and I think that's what a lot of the conversation has to do with when we see a name such as this. Bitcoin has a market cap of all Bitcoin that's out there, close to $2 trillion. Again, smaller than the market cap of even a single stock like Apple, for example, in the S&P 500. Is crypto a priority for him, like a huge priority for him?
Yeah, you're actually hitting this right. I mean, if you put the New York Stock Exchange, it's around 30 trillion, but cryptocurrency's always punched above its weight in terms of its size and importance when compared to the rest of the market. So I think what happens here with crypto is really two things. One is he changes the SEC enforcement view. Right now, the SEC is bringing a lot of enforcement cases. And for example, if you want to have one meeting with the SEC on the crypto side, you're looking at probably around $300,000 just to get your outside legal counsel.
Wow.
And so for a lot of the mom and pop startups out there, you're not going to have this enforcement, albatross hanging around your neck. So that's the first step. The second thing is bringing clarity to a market that needs clarity. And this is where I think Congress is going to jump in first, and the SEC is going to keep this as a second priority, because I do think Congress next year is going to pass a bill saying, all right, SEC, you're going to have authority over crypto tokens that are securities, and the Commodity Futures Trading Commission will have authority over tokens that are commodities. So the SEC is then going to have to promulgate rules on what does that mean. But I think for the immediate step in crypto, it's really that enforcement albatross that is the first thing that firms are going to get some breathing on.
Forgive me if I'm simplifying this too much, but how would you categorize whether Atkins is pro-Wall Street? Is the asset management industry, the banking industry, are they generally going to favor what the new SEC chair kind of puts into place?
So Commissioner Atkins heavily falls on the libertarian side. And so if you had somebody that, like, if you look at former SEC Chairman Jay Clayton, very much I would argue a pro-Wall Street individual. If you have the current SEC Commissioner Hester Peirce, comes from more of the libertarian mindset, more of a free market. I think Commissioner Atkins falls closer to Commissioner Peirce, meaning it's a lot more about competition, it's a lot about free markets and so forth, maybe not so much as a pro-Wall Street pick as somebody else could have come in here. So I think the challenge for Wall Street is yes, they are going to like his deregulatory views, which will take time, but there are going to be difficult questions asked, because you may run into a situation where you have an asset manager going up against a bank in a similar policy, and one side wants to be favored over the other, and Commissioner Atkins, I think, will come in and just say, no, we're going to make sure it's a competitive level playing field, and let the asset managers and the banks fight it out in the open market.
What else do we know about his reputation just as a commissioner and just in business? It's interesting because before Gensler became chair, there was a lot of talk that he was going to be very pro-crypto. He had taught a blockchain class at MIT, so I think there were a lot of expectations and it didn't quite meet reality. But what else can you tell us about the history of Atkins as a commissioner?
Yeah, so I was just watching some of my Democrat friends on the internet today talking very highly about Commissioner Atkins because if you talk to a lot of the staffers who worked at the SEC in the early 2000s, a lot of them will say look, he was very personable, very much interested in your position, may not agree with you. I mean, ideologically it may be different, but he's certainly one of those individuals that will say, look, let's have a conversation, and which I think differs from what the SEC is going through today, where Chairman Gensler, on the other hand, often tries to push the rules through and so forth like that. So I think you're going to get more of an amicable SEC working environment over there. Obviously, things are going to be ideologically driven over there, but Commissioner Atkins does have a great reputation here in the Washington circles as being somebody that at least you can have a conversation with. I would also just note that Commissioner Atkins very much is a deregulatory individual. This is his mantra. This is what he loves. And so, but in order to deregulate, there's really no magic wand that he can use. He has to go through this thing called the Administrative Procedures Act. Where I'm going with this, it's going to take years to get a lot of these deregulatory efforts through. And so don't look for this to happen in 2025, maybe not even 2026, but definitely start looking in 2027.
All right, well, we're going to be speaking to you a lot between now and 2027. Nathan Dean, Senior Policy Analyst over at Bloomberg Intelligence, joining us from Washington, D.C.